it was a company that was a startup, and they went public 2 years after I started working there. So I got in at the right time. It was really perfect timing, and I advanced really, really quickly. By the age of 25, I was a vice president there, and I was kind of running a division. And then in 2007, 2008, the world came to a crashing halt, especially in my business. I was in the center of the banking, and I went from living in a penthouse on Wall Street to being broke, like completely broke. I lost all my money like in 3 or 4 months. So my name is DiBugnara. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. I kind of grew up in New York my whole entire life. I've been in New Jersey for about 5 years now. My parents were kind of blue-collar people. I grew up like that. School was never really my thing. So it's funny because as you grow, you start to realize that, my mental confidence was kind of shook until I got into the work world, because I was never really good in school. I couldn't sit still. I could never really kind of do anything like that. So school was not something that I excelled at. So you never really think you're going to kind of amount to anything, because when you fail in school, you think you're going to fail in life. And when I got into the world, I realized I was a really hard worker, and it wasn't that I wasn't smart. I didn't apply myself the right way. So it took me I got into mortgages and finance at about the age of 22. Right out of college, when I got into the work world, it was the internet bubble. That was like the first recession that I kind of went through, and I was like 22. So when I got there was no job. My friend was in mortgages. Yeah. He said, "Come try this." You needed to be licensed at that point. So I went into mortgages, and it ended up being a really, really good time in mortgage. It was like rates were low for then. They wouldn't be low for now, but at that time it was the lowest rates had been, and it was like raining mortgages. So I got into mortgages at a really, really good time. It was a company that was a startup, and they went public 2 years after I started working there. So I got in at the right time. It was really perfect timing, and I advanced really, really quickly. By the age of 25, I was a vice president there, and I was kind of running a division. And then in 2007, 2008, the world came to a crashing halt, especially in my business. I was in the center of the banking, and I went from living in a penthouse on Wall Street to being broke, like completely broke. I lost all my money like in 3 or 4 months, because I wasn't living the right way to begin with, and I probably could have used an accountant at that point to help me. I always tell the story. It's a good story. So I had a place I lived on Wall Street because my company was there, and then I had a place in Miami, and again, I'm a kid, so I'm running around, and I went to Miami for the weekend. I came back. I got in the cab. I always used to take the first flight out so I could be back at work on Monday morning. So I came back. I got out of the cab. I go to the ATM. I put the card in the ATM. And again, I'm coming from my place in Miami. I'm going to Manhattan to go to my penthouse apartment, and I put the card in the ATM, and I'm insufficient funds. And you think at that point it would have been a wake-up call, but it wasn't, because I went upstairs. I had a stack of mail, and that stack of mail, there was all these lines of credit and stuff like that I was pre-approved for. Sign the check, and it keeps it rolling, because you never think the money's going to end. Mm-hmm. But I was mismanaging my money. At that point, I had as far as entrepreneurship goes, I had a music company. I decided I wanted to be in music, and I started going around Manhattan to showcases, and I started a management company. I signed 2 hip hop artists, and I was putting a lot of money into it, and that was it was going okay for what it was. I met some good friends that I still have today. One of my best friends is he's Travis Scott's main A&R. He's produced almost all his albums. He's got YG, so he stayed in the business. But when the banking industry crashed, music actually crashed at the same time. It was around the time of Napster. And they couldn't figure out how to stream music. So I kind of saw it almost parallel, right? Because the banking industry had to kind of do a restart, and the music industry had to do a restart because they couldn't figure out how to make money off of streaming. So they just shut streaming down, and instead of embracing it, they stunted it. So 2 businesses really crashed at the same exact time. It was like it was like 2 trades crashing.
2008, man. That was the year that a lot of businesses, especially the mortgage business. Actually, when I was in the car business, one of the guys that used to work that was in mortgages for years, and he was in Florida, owned all these boats and had all these luxuries, literally went to zero, came back into the car business. Yeah. But unfortunately, I remember, you were strong enough to bounce back. This guy ended up getting on drugs and just ended up just going downhill from there.
Most people left and didn't come back. Yeah. To be totally honest with you, if I wasn't stubborn, I probably would have done the same thing. Mm-hmm. I was too prideful to admit that I failed, so I should have declared bankruptcy. I didn't. I grinded out of the debt, and it took me years. And then I was too stubborn to admit I failed in mortgages, so I stayed in mortgages. So pridefully, it ended up working out for me. But most people left. Most people went and did something else. So they pivoted. I didn't know how to pivot at that point yet. I was just I don't know how to do this, tunnel vision. I was successful at this. Yeah. I can only be successful about that. And it just I took the long hard way.
Yeah.
But I went from like having all this money to what I thought was money to being completely broke. And then I started over again. I went back to sales. And you know, as an entrepreneur, mortgages and or real estate is always enabled to be an entrepreneur, because as you build your business, I was always an entrepreneur by spirit, but as you build your business, you know, it's your business. So it becomes residual that way. But what I realized at 28 is that all the people I knew worked for one company. I lost my job, they lost their job. Really, there was nothing anybody could do, and I didn't have any residual business. So that's when I really started from scratch. But I had a lot of debt at this point, and I started over again. I went back to being a salesperson, a loan officer. I was working like 12, 15-hour days. I was telling somebody the story the other day, and I rebuilt it again. And I went from being a loan officer for 2 years to restarting a new division at a startup. We built that startup for like 3 years. I left. I went to run another division at another company. I built that group up to about $300 million a year, and then we moved to Caldwell Financial, where I am right now. I merged with another group, and we went from 300 million to we're going to do about 2 billion this year. My business is actually kind of threefold at this point. So Caldwell Financial, I'm kind of a franchise owner here. Right? If it was Starbucks, I'd own franchises, and I have three partners on that business. That's my main business. Again, we're going to do about 2 billion in residential mortgage this year. I have my own commercial mortgage company, which is Home Qualified, which is really a real estate-based news company. Plus, we do commercial mortgages and that stuff. And that business will probably do about $300 million in mortgages this year. And that's completely commercial stuff, not residential. And then I have Real Estate Disruptor, which is something we started about a year and a half ago at this point now, that we're supposed to really start as a mastermind for real estate agents to teach them how to build their business. What it's really become is an educational community-based company where we're educating the real estate community. We just created a scholarship to bring more people into the business, people from underprivileged neighborhoods that haven't had the opportunities. We're creating opportunities for them. And now we just created a networking group that's going to be completely free as a mastermind for real estate business. So Real Estate Disruptors really became an educational company and to help all of us build our businesses together. So those are my three projects. I'm really excited about Real Estate Disruptor. And then I had hosted a show for American Dream. American Dream is a real estate-based show that is like a reality TV show. And I had hosted last year for the state of New Jersey, where I was kind of the host, and it was really based around the real estate agents. In September, I'm launching a show in collaboration with them that's just about me and my businesses. So it's going to be really based around all my businesses. We're launching in September, and it's kind of show everything we do. And that streams on Amazon Prime, YouTube TV, Apple TV, Roku, like anything that's streaming, it streams on. So that's something I'm launching in September. So those are my biggest projects at the moment. I'm married, I have 2 kids, they're young, they're 6 and 4 now, they're going to be 7 and 5, so that takes up a lot of my time. I'm a very, very routine person. And fitness has always been a big portion of my life. I competed as an athlete, and then I boxed for years competitively. And then I ran Spartan races competitively, where I was a sponsored athlete. I was like top 50 in the country for like 3 or 4 years in a row. Wow. And now I just train to train. Now I tell people I'm training against age. Like I don't want to admit that. I don't have to admit that I'm getting old. So I exercise pretty regularly, and that's really probably my biggest hobby. I'm an early guy. I get up about 4:30 in the morning, and that's my routine. And I exercise then, and then I'm here probably by like 7:30 every morning. But I'm still pretty heavy into that. And I think the rest of my hobbies really my kids take up at this point. But my biggest hobbies are business and fitness at this point, and children. So that's really encompasses my whole life at the moment. My early routine started because of my kids. Because I never forget it. Like I was told when we were having the kids, like you're not gonna be able to work out anymore. It's never gonna happen anymore. And it's almost like screw that. Like I'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. So I was always like a 6 a.m. guy, and that became 5:30 and 5, and then it went to 4:30 because I wanted as much private time as I can to myself. And for 2 hours in the morning, like it's peace. I get up, I kind of clean my email box out. I work out for like an hour and a half. I kind of cool down, and then I'm here by like 7:30, 7:45 every single day. And the reason I do that is I'm in full sprint by the time everybody gets here. Like by 12 o'clock, like right now, this is like the latter half of my day at this point now. So I really can get out of the office by 6:30 most nights and get home. And I really start early so I can do that. I'm always on my phone, but I'm home by 6:30 every single night. So I get 2 or 3 hours with the kids. And we ride bikes most nights now and stuff like that. But I'm able to get out of here and get there because I start so early. And for me, the routine is really more about it makes me being consistent every single day with the same exact thing keeps me in a place where it keeps my stress levels down. And I'll explain it like this: like every single day, I know I got to do the same thing every single day. So no matter how stressful the next day is going to be, I know I got to be up at 4:30. I got to clean my mailbox out. I got to exercise. I got to get to the office by 7:30. And by 9:30, 10 o'clock, people start showing up, and my day starts. But I know the first 4 or 5 hours of my day are the same every single day. So it keeps me level, and it enables me to do a lot more without being stressed, because I don't have to. I'm like scattered all over the place, and I'm super ADD, so it really helps me kind of keep myself in the right place. Yeah, I need structure for sure.